Hello, dear listeners. I wanted to mention a couple things before we start this week's Patreon Apple Plus episode, From the Vault, a tale about a dangerous 80s video game that appeared in arcades with possible links to the mysterious government agents known as the Men in Black, and then disappeared without a trace. First, I want to mention that we have new merch finally available at AmericanHysteria.com. We have our classic razor blade Apple logo on t-shirts, long sleeve shirts, and now featuring crop tops. That's right, boys. We also have t-shirts, baseball tees, and crop tops for our fake advocacy club, Folk Devils United, with the slogan Scapegoats Against Scapegoating. We are also now featuring our brand new merch design, Are You Afraid of the Podcast? The Tale of an American Hysteria, which is, of course, our tribute to the 90s kids horror show, Are You Afraid of the Dark? And we've got t-shirts, long sleeves, and crop tops. We also have tote bags and stickers of these designs as well. All profits from merch this month will be going to the Samir Project, a mutual aid group who are on the ground in Gaza providing food, water, baby formula, diapers, temporary shelter, medical supplies, and cash envelopes directly to displaced families. So visit AmericanHysteria.com or go to the link in the episode notes and get some merch now to support the Samir Project. One more thing. If American Hysteria has been important to you and you can spare $3 a month, your support can really help, as our financial situation has recently changed and we are working to make sure we can keep making this show that we love to make for you and keep it free for as many people as possible. If you join either Patreon or Apple Plus, we recommend Patreon, you'll get ad-free episodes and access to our other podcast, Hysteria Home Companion, that I make with our producer, Miranda, an episode of which you will hear right now. On Hysteria Home Companion, we tell you stories related to the topics that we cover or stories that we just know that you'll love. The one you're going to hear today is edited to just include the story, but Hysteria Home Companion also includes our feelings about the episodes we create for the main American Hysteria feed, the process of making them, sneak peeks about what is coming up, and a lot more about our personal lives than you would otherwise hear. We have a big back catalog, so there's already a whole lot to listen to. You'll also get access to our friends-only Instagram, where you will find out about what we're currently working on before everyone else, see photos and videos of whatever weird wormhole I'm currently in, and of course, see pictures of my cats, my tech deck tricks, and other random bits of American Hysteria ephemera. So just go to patreon.com/American Hysteria or subscribe on Apple Plus. We also have those links in our episode notes. We're sending all our best to you out there in the chaos. Now, please enjoy this 2023 episode of Hysteria Home Companion called Polybius, the Arcade Conspiracy. We are going to be talking about this 80s urban legend, or at least an urban legend said to take place in the 80s around a mysterious arcade game. Ooh. And I think that this is fun to kind of pair with our Furby and our Barbie episodes as yet another, essentially toy that had a bunch of strange lore attached to it. And there is question about whether this game even existed. So I'm going to kind of go through that story, what's real, what's fake, and kind of what we know about Polybius.
That's the name of the game?
That's the name of the game. So right. Before we start, I'm curious, Miranda, when you were growing up, what was your experience with arcades?
Thank you for asking. I actually spent a lot of time at the arcade in the Cascade Mall.
Nice.
You know, we would go to the food court or go to a movie, and then we would spend a couple hours at the arcade, and I would do a lot of Dance Dance Revolution.
You were one of those nerds.
That was me. Also, when I went to Reno, Nevada with my childhood best friend's parents, they would go to the casino and then just drop us off at the arcade, and we would play DDR.
The arcade is Casino Junior. Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, I mean, I really enjoy shooter games that don't have anything to do with animals.
Yeah.
And, you know, Miss Pac-Man, the classics. We used to have a really good free arcade bar called Vidiot here, but it closed down. And that was a favorite pastime. What about you, Chelsey?
Yeah, I mean, we had a place called Funtasia, which was in Edmonds, kind of near where I lived in Washington State. And yeah, it was just like such a great place. It was like batting cages, bumper cars, go-karts, bumper boats, mini golf. And then there was like a massive arcade. And it was, you know, in the 90s, you collected tickets, right? It wasn't this like plastic digital card. It was like analog. You could touch it. Those pink tickets, they spit out. We learned that when you got the tickets counted, you had to like put them into a machine and it would just like suck up all the tickets because, you know, they're like in these long strips. And if you like let it suck it up and you like kind of pulled it out, you could like get extra tickets because it would count your tickets twice.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. I was already on the con.
Wait, is this the place with Bullwinkle on it?
Eventually it would be bought up by the strange phenomenon of Rocky and Bullwinkle like play centers that popped up. But originally it was not. It was just Funtasia indie arcade spot. Yeah.
I went there for my senior night.
Like we could have passed like ships in the night.
My graduation night where they put you all on a bus so you don't go get drunk. And they're like, we're going to take you somewhere fun. And then they took us to a weird play adventure palace in the middle of the night. And then we went on a cruise that went nowhere. It was shitty. And I wish I had gotten drunk instead.
Yeah, I definitely got drunk instead of doing the senior trip. It's like, oh, there's absolutely no way. But you know, that's nice that you guys went to the Rocky and Bullwinkle play center.
Thanks.
But yeah, so I don't know. I mean, we still love arcades. We go to an arcade that's like down the street from our house at this bowling alley casino. And it's just never gets old. I always love being in an arcade. The flashing lights, the excitement. I am an expert and obsessive with the claw machine. That is my arcade game of choice. I really like to win stuffed animals and other ephemera for the people that I love. So that is my love language, is the claw machine.
And sometimes whatever child is walking nearby.
Yeah, I do. I am that like, here.
It's really sweet.
You want this? I don't think I would be a good home for this stuffed animal. And I got to give the parents like a little like, is this okay look, you know, because I don't want them to be creeped out.
Well, you got to ask them first.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. I give them like a little, can I do, because I want to like do it without the kid hearing. Yeah. More after this. And now back to the show. Anyway, so the arcade, a place of whimsy, but also a place of fear. So in the 1980s, the arcade was really like becoming a popular institution in like American teenage life, right? Like it's one of those places where you can go with just your friends. Your parents are like, fine, go to the arcade, get out of here. Here's a bunch of quarters, whatever. You know, it's like a communal meeting place, kind of like the mall for teenagers. Not that many places, right?
Yeah, it's a third place for kids, like not home, not school.
Yes.
But a third.
Yes. And considered generally a safe place, even though it's not always. All right. So in the 80s, early 80s, the kind of games that were popular were pretty simple. They were like Pac-Man and Donkey Kong. And these places were kind of controversial for reasons we'll get into. But allegedly in 1981 in Portland, Oregon, a place we were just spending a bunch of time in at Sarah Marshall's house, a mysterious video game appears, your huge black cabinet video game. And it's said to have only been in like one or two in the greater, in the Portland area. And the game is called Polybius. Right?
Right.
That's the name. I don't, for all of you who don't know, Miranda is the pronunciation master of American Hysteria because I can't pronounce a single word in the English language and I panic and then I really can't do it.
But you brought it in correct. There was never any other pronunciation you were considering.
Hell yeah.
So you're doing
Hell
it.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Thanks, babe. All right. So Polybius is a game that allegedly started to put players into a kind of trance, right? It was like this hypnotic thing that became such an addiction to the people who played it that lines would form around the machines and go out the door. And there were like actual fist fights over who would get to play next because it was like that intensely, it had that intense of a grasp on those who played it, right?
And this is alleged or this really happened?
This is alleged. This is the story, okay? We're in like the urban legend of this game, but we are going to get into kind of the grains of truth about it as well.
Okay.
So for right now, we're in the legend, okay?
Okay.
So
I'm here.
All right, you're here with me. Thank you.
Yeah.
So not only did it cause this like hypnotic addiction, but it also apparently caused seizures, insomnia, amnesia, night terrors, and hallucinations, as well as like a new extreme phobia of video games.
Okay.
There's some stuff about subliminal messages going on as well. But what really kind of cements the legend into something bigger is that it was reported that these men in black suits would actually come into these arcades and they would be seen at the Polybius cabinet, like downloading data from this arcade game.
This seems like a lie.
Well, we'll see. We'll see, won't we? That's the fun. So on Wikipedia, it describes kind of the legend of this Men in Black situation as them conducting a government-run, crowdsourced psychology experiment. Like that's what people kind of thought was going on.
And what is the premise of the game?
The premise of the game is something that I didn't really figure out.
Okay.
Like it doesn't, in all the stuff I read, it hasn't had what the game is and does, which is kind of part of the
mystery.
Okay, did this thing ever really exist? Right? Like the details on what it actually is are very, very sparse, which has kind of led, we can say this up front. It's like, there's no evidence that this game itself ever really existed. Okay.
Yeah. And that's part of it.
Yes.
And do you know what Polybius is or means?
Well, we're going to get into that too.
Okay, great. Okay, cool.
Don't you worry.
Just checking.
So not only did it seem that this was some kind of way to gather players' data for some kind of experiment, but it also was allegedly delivering subliminal messages to the people that played it, which is what was causing all of those psychosomatic issues to happen. And it was thought that that the Polybius game was some kind of extension of the mind control experiments of MK Ultra, and that it was run by the CIA. It was only for 1 or 2 months that this game existed in either one or two or a handful of arcades around Portland. And after that, it was removed by the same Men in Black and never seen again. That was it. It was just for those 2 months in Portland in 1981. And that was the whole run of Polybius. Okay.
Whoa. Okay.
So first we're going to go into like, okay, what do we know about this game? And then we'll get into the kind of evidence and what's really true and what's false. Sorry, I said it like that. All right. I'm going to text you a word that to hear me pronounce would literally like shatter the mountains. It would be so embarrassing. So this is something I'm sending over to you, Miranda. So the company named in most accounts of this game is
Sinisclosion is my best guess.
Sinisclosion.
Sinisclosion. Yeah, that feels right.
Okay. All right. Which is a German word. This word itself is not like actually a word in German, but it's described by Brian Dunning from the Skeptoid podcast, who is like one of the places I got a lot of info from, as not quite idiomatic German, which means a word constructed outside the norms of German language usage and grammar. And essentially it means sense delete or sensory deprivation. Yeah.
Sinisclosion.
Yeah. Sinisclosion.
Yeah, you got it.
Thank you so much. Okay, so that's the company name. So the actual Polybius name comes from a classical Greek historian who was Polybius. That was his name. And he lived in 208 BC. So this is like ancient Greece, in Arcadia. And he is known for creating the Polybius square, which is this device that kind of like functioned as an encryption table, which converted Greek letters into numbers to create secret messages. So it was like one of the earliest forms of like secret code. And he was also known for this thing that he said, and that he believed and asserted, that historians should not ever report on things that they can't verify through interviews and eyewitnesses, which feels like, you know, in a fun way, that kind of explains the problem with this urban legend, in that no one has ever actually stated that they've played this game in the arcade community. So there are like pieces of evidence on the internet that talk about it, but there's not anyone saying, I played this game and this is what happened. At least, you know, I'm sure there are comments out there on forums and stuff that say that, of just people fucking around. But generally there is no credible eyewitness to the Polybius game whatsoever, which is of course usually the case.
So is it maybe like a creepypasta thing?
It may be a bit of a creepypasta, but you know, when we're thinking of creepypasta, we're thinking of somebody who has written a story, right? So they've written an original story. Enough people have taken it to be true or decided that they would like to act as if it's true. And then from there, add their own little details, claim to have seen it, create like fake evidence to build out this legend. Whereas in this case, it seems a little bit more like several factors, several things rooted in truth came together. And from those grains of truth, this like lore to explain all those pieces came together kind of perfectly. So we're going to really see how an urban legend can really be formed from these scraps of truth that just somehow kind of form this cohesive legend. Like it's all the right pieces to fit into like one story. Okay.
Cool.
Okay. So the very first public record, like the very first mention of this game, Polybius, didn't surface, as far as we can tell, until either 1998 or 2000, depending on who you ask, on this website called coinop.org, which was just a database for arcade games. And of course, there certainly could have been earlier mentions of this, but we didn't really have an accessible internet that young people were on, you know, writing about their experiences in forums or whatever. We just didn't really have that. So, you know, to have something from around that time it's a good primary source. But in it, there's no real details. Like, as we mentioned, it's not like, oh, here's the
object of the game. Here's like what the game looks like. Here's how you win the game. It doesn't really have that kind of information, but the database page did have the myths written down for the game. Like it was kind of an abnormal page based on the other one. So it's like, here's the myths around this mysterious game that seems to have disappeared. But they also had an image of the start screen, which, you know, was like unremarkable, but it was there. And I don't really know if that was faked or what, but it was there. And that's kind of the earliest source we have of any mention of the game.
Okay.
But then like the first official mention comes from, and again, this is from the great research from the Skeptoid podcast, highly recommended. The first actual like official on record, not just from some database mention, was in this issue of Game Pro, which is a video game magazine from September of 2003. And the feature was called Secrets and Lies. It wasn't treating Polybius necessarily as if it was real, but it was the first time that this legend, this tale, went out to a mass market audience.
Okay.
And the article itself declared the existence of Polybius, the evidence around its existence, to be inconclusive, which of course, like people don't take the word inconclusive as meaning like it's untrue. And of course, it doesn't mean it's untrue, but it is like, oh, inconclusive, you say, like how mysterious, like I'm gonna get obsessed with myself trying to find out if this is true, since like this magazine couldn't even figure it out.
Right. And it's hard to prove a negative. So
Exactly. So, okay, there's like databases of people who collect classic and rare arcade games. This group called the Vintage Arcade Preservation Society actually does have Polybius in its system and does list the owner of like an actual version of this game. And his name is Rob Sherwin from Colorado. And he just collects other arcade games. But the listing on his page is just like kind of like this placeholder that exists that like sends you to his website. And all it really says on the actual homepage about Polybius is the legend, right? And then there's like a few photos of unknown origin. Let me see if I can actually look at those and we can describe them. I'm sending this to you, Miranda.
Okay.
So it's like a pretty typical looking game, right? It's black and beaten up, purple buttons, like that beautiful, I don't know what you would call that, like that aqua kind of blue that was popular in the 80s, striped down the side. And yeah, it just says Polybius in big blue bubble letters across the top, and certainly looks as if it could have been pretty easily photoshopped.
Yeah. And it's in somebody's living room. There's like a beige couch behind it.
Yeah, which, you know, is probably implying it to be our friend. What was his name? Rob, our friend Rob Sherwin's house.
Rob Sinislushin.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, there is a photo. It is of unknown origin. But that's kind of the only piece of physical evidence that there is. And, you know, it could be just as easily Rob Sherwin or somebody else being like, I love this legend. I want to kind of creepypasta it a bit, as we mentioned, and I'm going to create an image. Kind of like, you know, the Slender Man story came out. People started creating their own pictures of Slender Man in the background of old black and white photos.
Those are dope.
So, yeah, it seems to be maybe just a extension of what's already existing with this legend. So the Skeptoid podcast also looked at all, after my own heart, they looked at all the Electric Games magazines from 1981 through 1984. And I assume that this was just like one of the most popular gaming magazines that, like, if anywhere was going to have a mention of this game, it would be this magazine. But there's not a trace of the word Polybius in any of those magazines at all.
Okay. So this is like an internet phenomenon.
It appears to have been, I mean, that's the thing, right? It's like, We don't know if this legend popped up in the 80s or if this was a legend created about the 80s. And that's hard to say. Like the earliest mentions of this don't come until the late 90s, but we just don't know. Like there is going to be some more conclusive evidence that this is an actual urban legend that was happening at the time.
Okay.
So I will share that with you.
I'm getting ahead of myself again.
It's okay. It's okay.
Thanks.
Gotta ask questions. It's important. Gotta probe the depths.
More after this. And now back to the show.
So, all right. We're going to get into our grains of truth. I wish there was like like a thunder sound. Grains of truth. All right. So the idea that Polybius could like make you sick and make you experience these psychosomatic symptoms is not completely out of the realm of possibility, because in Portland, Oregon, in 1981, the Eugene Register newspaper, who happened to be watching this at the time, reported on November 29th that this 12-year-old kid named Brian Morrow was trying to break the record for the game Asteroids, which you might remember. I like barely remember it. But he was playing for more than 28 hours while it was like filmed by this local news station as well. It was like this whole thing in, the local Portland news scene, because obviously not a lot was happening that week. So at that 28, 29 hour mark, our dear Brian had to give up. And what he said was that he was feeling a bunch of stomach discomfort. Like he was really feeling sick. And, this could possibly be misconstrued, that the video game had caused this, although it was likely due, and I think by Brian's own admission, due to the fact that he had like a lot of anxiety at this time because he's like trying to break this record and he's playing this video game for 28 hours. Did he pee? I don't know. Didn't say in the article, but also due to the fact that he was just drinking Coke nonstop. And it's like a kid's heart's just exploding out of his chest.
What were we doing? This was before the 24-hour news cycle. What did they need this for?
Who are we doing this for? So now, in like a totally wild coincidence or not, a kid named Michael Lopez was playing video games in the same arcade around the same time that Brian was trying to break the record. And there he developed a migraine headache and he was playing the game Tempest. I don't know what that is, but he was actually found collapsed on a nearby lawn and taken to the hospital.
Okay.
Same day, same arcade. Pretty weird, like that's like something kids would notice, I think.
Mm-hmm. But then did the Men in Black show up?
Well, that's what's really, really, really fun.
Oh my God.
So we can imagine, right, that at this point, the legend is already cooking and perhaps kids are like, yeah, it's really weird. Brian and Michael both got sick playing games at the local arcade. And why is that? We're going to talk about that. We've already heard, it's the 1980s. We're already hearing that video games are dangerous. We had the same kind of similar thing happen in the 90s with Pokemon, right? With you watch Pokemon on TV, you're going to have a seizure. That was like a whole big panic.
I remember.
Yeah. And that is actually based in some fact as well. In the 1980s, there were at least 9 cases of reported epileptic seizures thought to be caused by the flashing lights of video games. And that's called photosensitive epilepsy. And it's definitely a real thing, extremely rare, but just like we heard Pokemon was causing seizures in the 80s, people heard all of the reports of people getting seizures from video games. So we already we have that in the mix. So, all right, let's get to the Men in Black, because this is like the best part of this.
Come on.
Here is our grain of truth. Along with like the panic around video games being, you know, either satanic or just a bad influence on kids or causing these medical emergencies, whatever, kind of one of the main panics was around gambling, right? Like when you go to an arcade now, even on like my beloved claw machine, it's like there are like these weird warnings or labels that's like gambling's illegal. And then it was like kids were only allowed to go to arcades from like certain times. And it's like on it, you'll see like, and I'm going from memory. I didn't research this part, but I like remember that you can only play this game from this time to this time. And after that time, it's like gambling or something. I don't know. But it's like, there's just this idea that arcades were going to cause kids to get addicted to gambling. And as we said, arcades are just kind of like Casino Junior.
Yeah, that's why you walk into the arcade and all the kids are smoking their cigarettes.
Exactly.
It's the only place they can do it inside.
Exactly. And they also are just getting like free mixed drinks brought to them by cocktail waitresses.
It's just juice boxes. I'll tell you when I've had enough. 3 fingers of milk, Ma.
Oh, you. So, all right, grain of truth. So actually, due to this sense, this fear that there was some connection between arcades and gambling, local governments, as well as the state government and the FBI had started to kind of like come around, right? And like go into these arcades and just check things out a little bit. And this happened to be at the like fucking exact same time that our dear Brian and our dear Michael were falling ill due to mysterious circumstances.
Drinking Coca-Cola for 28 hours and staring at a video game screen.
Actually, like just 10 days later, the FBI started to raid arcades in Oregon. And they were doing it because the arcade operators had started to illegally use these video games for gambling by basically wiring them somehow and turning them into casino games. They like modified the thing that like counted the points, which allowed owners to give players actual cash based on how many points they made in their game. So there was like a literal casino thing happening. Like you get points, those points can translate into money that you then get back as a kid. And there's like secret arcade rings that were providing this opportunity for kids. And as far as I could tell, that was really happening. So the FBI is like bursting into arcades around Portland and making these arrests. And on like a smaller scale, they were like sneaking around. They were like snooping and sneaking and trying to gather evidence of whether or not this was happening. Picture like FBI agents. You're just playing your games, right?
I'm picturing Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones.
Perfect.
Bursting in.
Right.
Ha 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 ha.
Ha ha. Yeah, great. So that's exactly right. And so they would actually come in and start taking pictures of the players' initials on the high score screens because they were hoping that they could eventually identify witnesses for whatever case they were doing to like have like ASS testify.
He is a narc.
Yeah, total narc. And so they were trying to identify potential witnesses, and they were also like looking around the different cabinets. Like, okay, here's a video game. They're looking around the back. They're like getting into the wires. They're like, you know, doing things that kind of look like they could be retrieving data. Like part of that tale is like they were trying to get this data, whatever. They were just trying to figure out the tech behind these illegal gambling games. So as we can see, we've got, you know, our actual medical things happening at the arcade in Portland. And then we have the Men in Black who were essentially snooping around and actually coming in and doing what looked like downloading data or raiding these places due to some weird need for the data on these games. And then eventually the story was that the Men in Black came, picked the games up, they disappeared, and there has been no trace of them since. And those are the grains of truth that I think we can kind of see how they would pretty easily fall together to create this perfect fodder for kids to tell a story that's not that far from the truth, but is just blown up and exaggerated and misunderstood and then turned into like this cohesive, perfect tale of this video game, which is just so much fun.
Cool.
I got just a little more for you.
Oh,
and
excellent.
that is that this is what might have like solidified the legend, right? Because apparently this Polybius game was around in 1981. By 1984, this movie came out called The Last Starfighter, which I don't know anything about. Maybe you do.
I
Comment
sure
if you do.
Not me.
But it told the story. It told the story of a teenager who was recruited by a man in black for his skills at playing this secret government operated arcade game. Okay. And then the same year in 1984, there was a novel called Arcade by Robert Max that told the story of an arcade game called Spacescape that kind of was like an exact match of the Polybius description. And it was about a video game that caused players to lose their minds when they played it. So by this time, it's like either they were influenced by the legend, which is kind of like what we're kind of assuming is like they heard this legend. So it could either be that they heard this legend and it inspired them, or it caused people to look back at these stories and mix them with this fiction that had been created. We don't know. So that is just a little bit of further information that either the legend already existed at that point, or there was these pieces of fiction that were helping the legend along. So, we've got there's a lot here. And a lot of times urban legends have no grain of truth or just the tiniest grain of truth. But these are like some pretty, it's pretty close. It's not that far away from what really seemed to be happening.
Great story.
So yeah, I think that's it. Thank you so very much for listening to this episode of Hysteria Home Companion. Thank you, Miranda.
Thank you, Chelsey.
This was American Hysteria, or rather, Hysteria Home Companion, which you can get access to at patreon.com/American Hysteria or by subscribing on Apple Plus. Remember, we have a big back catalog of episodes, so there's lots to listen to right now. Thank you so much to those of you who have already been supporting us on Patreon or Apple Plus. You've really kept the show going. And to those of you thinking about joining, we would love to have you, and your support would mean so much. Also, make sure you go to AmericanHysteria.com to pick up some of our new merch and support the Samir Project. The producer of American Hysteria and my co-host on Hysteria Home Companion is Miranda Zickler, and I'm her co-host, Chelsey Weber-Smith. And our associate producer is Riley Swedelius-Smith. Thanks, as always, for listening, and I hope you have a great week.